I want to talk to you today about outlining. So this is another in my series on on note taking, and I thought I would start with the simplest, most obvious one, which is outlining. And what you have up in the corner here is some notes I took on a video. If you want to try it out, the video is called "Crowder Gets It Wrong." There must have been more to the title, by Potholer54. And it was uploaded on April 20th, 2017. In fact, I think that's when I take that back. I believe this is actually when I took the notes, because I think I told you before, when you take notes, you should put a title, you should put a date, so you can find them again if you drop them. Now, I just did this one as an example. It's not one to keep, but there you go. So I practiced what I preached, outlining. Now, while I was prepping for this video, I happened to notice this. From almost a month ago, April 1st, 2017, I am taking a class. We're having sessions sporadically. So these are the notes I took from the first day of the class. And of course, I wrote the names of the professors. A little bit about cost and such. A little bit, and then I started taking notes. You'll notice this is me taking it without the idea of ever showing anybody. So this is what my notes look like when I take them for myself. But you can see a basic outline structure here. Then a bit more in the back. So, yeah, I do practice what I preach. And one more example before I actually dive into this. I go to school board meetings. I always find it helpful to actually know what's going on at our local school board because I work at the school. And it's helpful to know who's saying and doing what on the board. So, again, outline form. Some direct quotes, which I will spare you from because that was an interesting meeting. But, yeah, so it's a very common type of note-taking form. And I'll tell you what's nice about it. You'll notice in front of you right now, I have my notes. This is not actually note-taking exactly. This is more of an outline so I can do a video. So let's put some actual notes in front of you. But anyway, I'm not going to actually show you, except possibly briefly, my notes for the video, so that if you wish to, you can practice note-taking. Outline form notes work best if the information is presented reasonably linearly and it has subtopics. You need a presenter who's fairly organized. Some topics just don't lend themselves well to outlines, which is why I'm going to present other forms of note-taking. But that's what it's best for. And I will also mention a commenter who sent me private message, so I won't mention a name, did send me 2 links, which I have linked below this video, that point out that the act of writing, the physical act of writing, not typing, writing, actually helps put information into your memory. Typing just doesn't have the same results. And these are scholarly articles. These aren't just pop culture type things. So, yeah, note-taking is worthwhile. For me, at those school board meetings, there's so much stuff goes on, my attention would be gone. So I take notes in this guy to help me stay on track. Now that's also my dot journal and such that helps me keep track of a lot of things. I mean, if I lose this, I'm going to cry. But yeah, it helps me pay attention, and I remember because I wrote it down. I don't even have to refer. If I just sat at the board meeting watching, guess what? It'd be forgotten. So writing really helps. I'm one of those that I would often take notes and then I wouldn't even refer back to them. For details, yes, but for the overall gist, if I can write it down, yeah. Because the other thing is to process. In fact, one of the first things I have written down here after that is when you outline, you want your main ideas and topics. And if you look at this from this potholer video, claim NASA says fossil fuels cool planet. Huh? That will come back to the huh. That's something I want to add at the end of the video. So it turns out he's actually quoting from some show called Louder with Crowder. It's obviously a silly claim, at which point I was like, oh, thank goodness, because is my comment on that. And it's just like, wait a second, that's not right. And so what he did is he traced it back through a series of tabloids and found out that the actual NASA press release is something totally different from what this reporter, Louder with Crowder, was saying. So there it is. Main topic, subpoints. Another main topic, more subpoints. Main topic, subpoints. So that's kind of the thing with outlines. Now, admittedly, it is easier with an organized presentation. That's why I often write notes before I do these, so that I can be organized. Even though I'm not showing them to you this time, they're right on the other side of this bit of plastic comb here. So this gives you an idea how I take notes, and it actually brings up an important point. I like a fairly minimal outline. You know, when I first started teaching, I would write all my notes on the board, and don't do this. This is bad teaching. But I'd write all my notes on the board. I'd fill it 4 or 5 times in a period. You know, I'd have my big dot means important topic, dash means subtopic, little dot means undertopic, and I forget what all my levels were. And I thought I was being pretty rebellious because I learned the really basic outline form, the Roman numeral type outline. So let me digress there briefly, and then I will come back and tell you why I like this more minimalist style. So we'll go on the page where I have my notes, but we'll drop down here. You'll see the word sources there, which means nothing. But you could do your notes in an outline form. I'll write this with my Aurora 88. So generally you'll have a title and a date. So today is... No, actually, you're probably watching this on May 1st. Or later. We'll go May 1st. So title, stuff... And then we'll put our big Roman numeral, topic 1. And then underneath it, we'll have our A, B, C, our different subtopics. Maybe under one of them, I will have further subtopics. Oh, maybe I want to go even deeper. And I might be getting this out of order. I don't really recall the hierarchy because I don't use this format ever. In fact, I haven't practiced it probably since elementary school because, ew. But there is actual rules to it, and I don't want to teach them because I think that's a terrible way to take notes. The concept is good. Organization, subtopics, and so on. But trying to remember what comes next is just so impossible. So what I used to do when I started teaching is I'd have, my big topic, and then underneath it my subpoints, and then maybe some little subpoints. And maybe as a celebration on a holiday, I might use hearts or something to represent, if it's Valentine's Day. I was like, oh, I'm so spontaneous, but I really wasn't. Now I prefer something more simple. If I'm writing an outline, it might be a list of topics, and if I feel the need, I will do subtopics. I actually am more likely to mix and match note-taking methods, so this one I was really careful to stick with just an outline form. But if you look at my notes from the class that I took, a little bit wilder, which we'll have to get into. That'll be coming down the road. Oh, and I need my own outline, so I keep going do this in order. Because like I said, I did actually plan this out. All right, so I'm more of a minimalist, as you can see. I used to try not doing these dashes, but then I discovered I would, if I got to hurrying, I would forget what's a subtopic. So little dashes were a reminder that, oh yeah, this is a subtopic. I'll tell you what inspired me. If you've ever heard of a gentleman named Edward Tufte, now he is not writing books on outlining. He wrote a series of books on presenting information. I may have not left enough room there, but what he'll do, a title. Now, what you'll notice here, no real subheadings. Now, here's a little subheading. In fact, this book, I don't believe he does anything other than that. Some of his books you will see, he has sections within the chapter. Here he just does these kind of things to bring it out. But very minimal. So you're not distracted by format, you're just focusing on the information that he presents. So these are interesting books if you're into presenting information, by the way. Topic I'm not an expert on, I don't know if I'll ever bring it up, but definitely worth reading if you're into it. You know, he's more of an artist. It'd be worth reading some math people's ideas also. But we'll move on. So very minimal is what I like. But here's the next deal. You need to make sure you're interacting with the material. Otherwise, what is the gain from taking notes? Because the more you have to engage this with the material, the more likely you are to remember it. I mean, let's just say you're watching this video right here, and, you know, it's very nice. I don't know how easy I am to listen to, but, you know, I'm told I'm relaxing. Can be a synonym for boring, but anyway, so you're listening to me, and you're like, oh, yeah, makes sense, yeah, outline. And we're done with the video, and it's just processed through, because I've pre-digested it for you. That's why when you take notes, you're actually contributing. You're engaging this. Now, take notes well. Don't take them word for word. You want to paraphrase what you're taking your notes on. You want to summarize. You want to put it all in your own words so you actually process. Now, sometimes things are important. You may hear a direct quote from the school board meeting. I have some direct quotes from a few school board members that are interesting. If there's an exact definition, that may be helpful. You know, I do math and science. Formulas, kind of important to get exact. You know, some of this stuff you want exact, but a lot of it if you put it in your own words, you're going to process it. So you're processing it in several... Oops. Sorry, pen, that's way older than me, but can still handle that. So if you put it in your own words, it gets processed. Motor skill, everything. You're more likely to remember. When we teach, we actually shouldn't make it too easy to learn, because the kids just sit there, little puddle of drool coming out of the corner of their mouth. They don't have to do anything. They can sleep. What the heck? I mean, heck, let's just hand them the outline with blank spaces and they just fill in a word here and there. I know teachers that do that. Not this teacher. But, that's worse than just copying it straight off the board the way I used to teach, honestly. Yeah, I said that. That's my opinion, though. I think I'm borne out by research. Now, I will mention one other thing that you can see more in my class notes. My main pen was my usual Lamy 2000, which I just emptied out. But my Lamy 2000 with Noodler's Black. And then I started with I did little highlights. And then I started writing extra notes that focus on side things. And then I had some other notes that are like tangential. I would suggest keeping minimal colors. It's an outline. That way things stand out. And don't get too wrapped up in a specific color coding system, because you will forget it. Or you will run out of that one color ink and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do without my teal ink in my Lamy Safari that I use for highlights all the time? OMG. Don't get too worked up. You know, I like black as my main note, but you may have noticed my school board notes were in... what color were they? Some kind of blue. Lamy turquoise, because that's the pen I grabbed that day. So yeah, absolutely. Settle on a main color. One or two colors for highlighting, pointing out important things. Arrows point out important things. Maybe another color to put extra notes, which I will come back to that. And another color if it's like personal notes to remind you of something sideways. But again, be careful you're not distracted, because whoops. So, I'd say 2 to 3 colors. Now, the strengths of this, very sequential. If you follow this outline, he was very organized. His videos always are. He goes in order. He doesn't say, subtopic number 2, Crowder fans don't like him being fact-checked. He doesn't do that. But you can pick out his topics. So, yeah, absolutely it's great for organization. It's easy to do. It's very condensed. It's good for sequential information. And it's simple. I mean, I'm not going to be spending time thinking, oh, how do I show that link? How do I illustrate how these two are linked together? None of that. I don't have to think about presentation. I just have to think about get the information down in a form that's meaningful to me. Now, John Bates, archiving data. Maybe, in a while I might forget what that means. But what I now remember looking at that is that, oh yeah, John Bates was cited as somebody saying that the data from NOAA had been, what's a good word for it? Manipulated. Oh, whoops. Actually, what John Bates said, and he specifically denied accusing them of manipulation, is, I don't like how NOAA is archiving the data. So that reminds me, in my own words, I'm reminded. All right, so, yeah, and here it is in a class. Little less organized because their presentation, because it was several teachers, was more all over. But that's a page from the notes. But that's what it's good for. Now, what it's weak in is showing relationships. Yes, we've got relationships here. We have a hierarchy. Not everything is hierarchy, and sometimes things are linked. Now, of course, I'm adding this with no meaning to it. I could, with an outline, do things like that, but it's not as good for that. It doesn't show visual relationships. So what I started doing, this is my addition now, is I started adding comments to the side. I usually add them in a different color. I might add them while I'm listening to the thing. I might add them later. These are like questions or thoughts that have come to me. In fact, this is a video thought that came to me as I was watching that. The was me, okay, yeah, Potholer 54 just said that, and that cannot be. So I wrote so I'd remember that. Did he actually address that? That's me engaging with the content, actually listening to it, not just letting it wash over me. Same thing here. Collaboration, which I was worried I misspelled. I don't even know why I wrote SP question mark. It's just a habit of mine when I can't remember how to spell stuff. But then I added a little note here to it. Focus on interdisciplinary teaching, how to work with other teachers. And then I was actually inspired to look up some other stuff that was more related to kind of tangential to the topic we were doing. Smethport, Pennsylvania has a citywide heating system. It's a woody biomass demonstration project. I added that at the side. I'm engaging with the notes by adding these things to the side. Obviously, an outline for a video that I'm going to present, I don't do all that, but, it is what it is. So, that actually does point to a weakness of the outlines, which is why I started doing this. This is addressed in another note-taking format, which I will be talking about next, which is the Carnegie note-taking format. Carnegie note-taking format actually physically divides the page in half and is designed for you to do this sort of thing on one side. So I will discuss the Carnegie note-taking format next time. I just want to mention, because I haven't said it yet, that these simple pre-digested notes, the more pre-digested they are, the less helpful. So you need to be processing. That's so important. So if your teacher's just writing things down, you copy them. Or if the teacher is reading them off. Have you had the teacher that, and the most common note-taking form is, have you ever seen that? Well, and you start writing that down word for word, yeah, you'll get that teacher's exact words down, but are you really engaging this? And I hate to say it, but a lot of educators actually are hostile to proper note-taking because they want you to memorize all these picayune little details, which is totally antithetical to the idea of note-taking, rather than engage in the concepts and the big themes. So, bad teachers, don't do that. And I will also mention, when you do an outline, it does not take advantage of the visual dimension of information. It's linear. Now, yes, it's very likely that if you look through my notes, you will find notes that I've taken where I include illustrations of a concept. I mean, just because we're doing an outline doesn't mean I don't put in a diagram here and there. And that's visual note taking. So that's another one I want to take up also, because again, the real idea is you mix and match note taking techniques to find out what works for you and match it to the presentation. If you get a real scattershot presentation, your notes, your rough draft notes, and I don't really like second drafts, but sometimes you have to, your notes may be more scattershot. So, to summarize, this is the most common note-taking form. It's best for linear hierarchical presentations. It is easy. It's a very condensed form, doesn't waste a lot of space. I'd suggest 2 to 3 colors. I'd suggest minimal levels of hierarchy so you can focus on the information. If you need more, you need more. It is what it is. But I also would say, since it doesn't show relationships, doesn't leave room for your own thoughts, feel free in the margin, yes, you should have a margin, always leave white space, to add your own comments and questions. If I was watching this as a presentation here in person, I wouldn't have interrupted Mr. Potholer54, who actually does have a real name, but I can't remember it right now. He's a reporter. I wouldn't have interrupted him and say, excuse me, Mr. Potholer, did you just say NASA says fossil fuels cool the planet? No. Take your notes. At a more convenient time, you can ask about that. Because he did address it right away. And if he doesn't address it, by golly, I'm bringing that up. And I'll remember, because I wrote a comment to do so. And I put it in a different color so it stand out. So, I don't know if this is what you were expecting with a outline video, but that's how I outline. If you like a more rigid style, go for a more rigid style. I just happen to think, I do know some people, because I've seen this, this seems to be just like a certain class of people, but they will do things like this. And you see this in some technical books too. We're in chapter 1. This is section 1.1. Oh, this is subsection 1.1.1. Oh, this is subsection 1.1.1.1. And woo, gross focus. I don't know what happened there. They'll keep delving in deeper and deeper and deeper in the hierarchy. And, oh, is that ink feathering? Yuck. But anyway, I hope this was useful. Hopefully it was helpful. Next week we'll get into Carnegie Notes and hopefully address some of the shortcomings of outlines, but bring some shortcomings of its own. So until then, I thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.